Well, a major Supreme Court ruling today in the case against former President Donald Trump and his alleged efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss. And the court ruling partly in favor of the former president, saying all presidents, current and former, are entitled to immunity from prosecution for official acts. But that's where it gets a bit tricky. The high court did not determine whether the acts in this particular case were official acts, instead giving that decision to lower courts, meaning the 6-3 ruling fell along partisan lines and could delay the case long past the November election. Let's bring in our chief legal analyst, Clive Rhodes, to be able to dive deeper into this ruling. So what do we take from this today?
Biggest takeaway is that the president is not absolutely immune for all acts, that there are some acts, certain acts that the president is not protected, and that there is a presumptive immunity around the president. The president, Chief Justice Roberts, wanted to make sure that not just President Trump, but any president going forward wasn't taking actions and looking over their shoulder for some future criminal prosecution, that they could act swiftly and move boldly in his writing in making their decisions. And in the dissent had a number of things to take away from that, but by all means, Chief Justice Roberts wanted to make sure, and the other 5 justices, that the president, in the office of the president, had some type of protections for the actions that they would take.
Okay, so for this, Trump now saying this was a big win for him, posting on social media, quote, "Big win for our Constitution and democracy, proud to be an American." That was his quote. How do you take that?
I mean, politically, you can spin this a number of ways. I mean, if you're looking at the aspects of his other cases that he had that were still pending, the documents case in D.C., down in Florida, the cases is there. This is a delay, and so it ties into his tactics at all. I can take away a couple of things for sure. I know that there will be no case going forward before the election. You can see that for sure. Sending this back down to the lower court, which they typically do, allows the lower court to make a determination that we'll have to deeper dive and figure out what are overt acts. What are your acts within the office of the president? And right now, they didn't give us a decision. They didn't make a determination of that.
And that's the biggest question that most people have. It's, what is considered to be an official act, and why did they then hand it down to the lower court?
That any case where they will make a determination to say, look, the lower court got it wrong. And in this case, the United States District Court judge got it wrong. They're saying the Court of Appeals got it wrong. And now the Supreme Court is saying, we're telling you how you should act. Now I'll send it back to you and decide the case based on that. And so there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of unanswered questions. They gave a couple examples of what could be considered an official act. Making a call to Pence, for instance, would be an official act. So some of the charges that talk about the conversations that the former president had with members of his cabinet, with members within his own office, they'll have to look back and say, can we take that out? Because some of them, based on the court's decision today, won't be able to go forward.
So what was the dissent of today's ruling?
I mean, Sotomayor, a scathing dissent. Typically at the end of a dissent, they say respectfully. And she didn't say respectfully at the end. What she said is that I dissent because I want to ensure, out of making sure that our democracy is protected. Out of fear that our democracy is being attacked, I am dissenting specifically because you guys gave Trump everything he wanted and more, is what she said. And normally the justices don't read their opinions. She read her dissenting opinion right there 2 seats down from Chief Justice Roberts, the entire time looking down at him, the entire time making sure that he could see how frustrated and how emotionally disturbed that she was that the majority went in this direction. Her dissent, just a couple things that you could take away from it. She asked, well, if he used SEAL Team 6, what would happen to the president? And she said, well, he would be immune. If he decided to have a coup, what would happen? He would be immune. If he decided to take a bribe while in office, he would be immune. And then she said, immune, immune, immune. You can see from the writing that she was purely frustrated and purely upset with the direction that the majority took. And dissents are normally something that's telling. You can look at dissents throughout history. Plessy v. Ferguson, they got it wrong in that situation. And what came after that? Brown v. Board of Education. A number of times it takes 20, 30, 40 years sometimes for history to look back and say, okay, were we right? And time will tell if we got this one right.
All right, Clive Rhodes, appreciate your insight as always.